Watch renowned Andis livestock grooming educator Kirk Steerwalt demonstrate cattle fitting in the Beef Palace auction arena. Kirk will explain the latest techniques to get award-winning results from your Andis tools. Check your schedule for dates and times. Ladies and gentlemen, if you would, put your hands together for the exhibitors being excused at this time. 10 have been put back into the pen, and will now walk through those and place them.
What an unbelievable way to start off the show this morning here at Denver. And obviously, when I signed the dotted line to come, this is what I expected. And right out of the gate, an unbelievable set of pigs, quality-wise, and kids did a tremendous job with them. I think when you get into the top end of this class, a tremendously deep set that can go several different ways. I think the pair that I ride with on top put lots of good things together. In particular, body shape and just dimension that they both have is just a little bit better than the rest. And then they still have the right gear and the right athleticism to keep going and keep pushing. I think a tremendously close pair that I've got out here. Young man's bear suits me better when they come right at you. One that opens up stouter in his chest and all the way down to his front foot. Get right around the top of him. That thing's got a great big hip and a big hind leg that he uses it tremendously well. What keeps it close is I'd like to clean up just a little bit of puffiness there in the upper part of his hock, but I think one that dang sure doesn't affect his mobility none. Stout-headed, good-bodied, and fresh. Really good way to start this show off. Young lady's bear that I got in second, I think that one paints the right picture from the side. I really like this one's height to shoulder. The way that his neck ties into his shoulders, tremendously good. Another big-bodied, stout, muscular bear that's fresh. This one to me doesn't put it together and maybe blend it as well from the side as well as the bear that wins. He gets just a little higher in his loin, comes right at you, wants to close up just a nickel. But that's an awfully good bear we got there in two. Young lady's bear we got in three paints a similar picture of the bear in second. Really neat looking and really athletic. Long hipped and uses his hind leg in terms of reach extremely well. Fresh backed and still good body when you get on top of him. Wants to get a little slicker about his jaw, a little frailer about his ankle and his feet. But I still think an athletic one that's still been presented extremely well. Good bear that we got there in three. Young man's hog we got here in four is another one that's really level, very correct in the way that his shoulder and front leg sets into him. He wants to close up in the lower third of his skeleton, but man, that thing is still fresh and good looking from the side and still athletic. Just needs to have more horsepower, lower third of his skeleton. Young man's hog coming next is a real heavy duty one that's round bodied and fresh. He didn't quite paint the picture from the side, wants to get just a little lower about his shoulder, a little shorter there about his hip, but he still uses his hind leg well. That's an awfully good one to round out the top five. Great show to start off the show, or great class to start off the show. Put your hands together for these kids as they go back to their pens.
Results of Class 1. In 10th place, Jomi Sorrell, Allison, Texas. 9th place goes to Tristan Trout, Mobidi, Texas. In 8th place, Jack Owen, Wilcox, Arizona. 7th place, Kaylee King, Carlsbad, New Mexico. 6th place, Rowdy Campfield, Runnels, Iowa. In 5th place, Mason Jordan, Douglas, Oklahoma. 4th went to Peyton Goodell, Leedy, Oklahoma. 3rd went to Brinley Hunt, Lincoln, Arkansas. 2nd, Kylie Kaiser, Eaton, Colorado. And 1st, Grant Lackey, Haskell, Texas. Next in the ring is class number 2 of the Berks. Class 2 of the Berks entering the ring. The Colorado Farm Show is proud to support the National Western Stock Show, and they invite you to attend the 56th Colorado Farm Show, January 28th, 29th, and 30th at Island Grove Regional Event Center in Greeley, Colorado. If you eat it, drink it, or wear it, agriculture produced it. Colorado Farm Show brochures are available ringside or at the announcer stand. Complete details are online at www.coloradofarmshow.com. Ladies and gentlemen, if you would, put your hands together for the exhibitors being excused at this time. Thank you very much.
Another nice class of these Burks to work with, and maybe not quite as deep in terms of all the way through the class as the other one we talked about. But I think when you get on top, I think a nice pair of barras that I think are interchangeable, and I think we kind of need to take parts of both of them to blend together from what I'm wanting. But that being said, the young man's bear suited me better from just a balance and an eye appeal from the profile. Taller shouldered, longer hip, better tailed. Everything fits together maybe a little bit better from the profile. Get right on top of him. He's more massive right there out of his shoulder. Body shape still good, and he handles himself relatively well. Nice kind of pig to lead off with. Young lady's bear in second. I like this one's proportions extremely well. Long fronted, short back, and still athletic. Bear that's really well presented and good bodied. Wants to get just a little off there in his hip and just doesn't quite use his hind leg maybe as good and as athletically as the one that wins. But man, I do like a lot of neat things about that bear. Hog coming out in three from when that thing comes right at you. That's a big chested one that's square backed and big pin. When you get around to watch that thing walk away is when this one comes into third. A little flatter, stifled, narrow at the ground, and just not quite as much rear bone and foot as those two above her. But man, I do like that one's back shape. Up front, everything up there fits like it's supposed to. Just needs to be a little bit better when that thing goes right away. Coming out in fourth is one that's been driven extremely well and presented very well. Good in terms of the angle of this one's shoulder and athleticism up front. Just doesn't blend it together maybe as well down his top line and out of his pin set. Needs to be stouter to his foundation to move up any higher. Hog coming out in five is another neat looking one from the profile. Tall shouldered and long hip. Just runs out of bone. It's just not quite stout enough. Nice set of kids in this second class of Berks. Put your hands together for all of them for me as they go back to their pins.
Results of Class 2 in the Berkshires. Kenya Crawford, Hugoton, Kansas is 10th. 9th, Briley Williams, Princeton, Missouri. 8th place goes to Caden Schwab, Fort Collins, Colorado. 7th, Billy Ann Jervis, Sapulpa, Oklahoma. In 6th place, Quentin Harper, Spearman, Texas. 5th goes to Caleb Stovall, Dumas, Texas. 4th, Kaylee Byram, Sheldon, Missouri. 3rd to Jacob Fossmore, East Leroy, Michigan. 2nd, Dakota Martin, Mason, Texas. And 1st to Nolan Hogue, Good Hope, Illinois. Champion Drive is in the ring.
As I reiterated, or want to reiterate how good and how deep these Berks were, and certainly was a pleasure to get started off here with these Berks like we are, because it certainly can set the tone for the rest of the day, and I think represented extremely well by these four that I've got out here in the ring. And I think going to be represented by a pair that I think do come together as a pair. I think two that are just maybe the combination of the other two. I think two hogs that are very athletic and very genuine in their build, but then dense and proportional and athletic, and look and just put it all together with what I want in terms of just athleticism and bulk, and then having all the extras. Folks, help me congratulate the two kiddos out of the lightweight class. Will be your champion in reserve.
Champion Burt goes to Grant Lackey from Haskell, Texas. Your reserve champion Burt, Kylie Kaiser from Eaton, Colorado. John Deere is the official agriculture and turf equipment provider of the National Western Stock Show. Visit your local John Deere dealer for great deals now, and remember, nothing runs like a deer. Murdoch's can take care of all your needs in one stop. From jeans and boots to feed and fencing, hardware and tack, and so much more. Find a store near you at murdochs.com. Ladies and gentlemen, if you would, put your hands together for the exhibitors being excused from the ring at this time. Thank you very much.
Nice set of Chesters to start off this breed, and I think a pair that I've got out here that are good from individual areas, and maybe like to find some middle ground in the middle between these two to suit me real well. But the young lady's bear that I do lead off with, I think is awfully good in terms of his body shape. Freshness when you get on top of him is awfully good. One that's very good in terms of his chest, and still he balancing is proportional from the side. I'd like to square this thing's front feet up when he comes right at you, but man, that thing's still proportional and dense and still goes good. Nice pig to go ahead and lead off. Young lady's bear that I got in second, one is probably just a little denser in terms of his jawline and his feature. One that I didn't read being as athletic. He wants to kind of swing them front feet out when he comes right at you. He needs to have just a shot more horsepower when he goes right away, but in terms of length of hip and still length of stride and athleticism off his hind leg, I thought in this particular class that was the second best option. Young man's bear coming out here in threes, another big chested one that still has some extension to his front end. He's one that just gets a little tentative in the way that he handles his front feet as well. Another one that's still fresh when you get on top of him and muscular. I just wish he could catch a gear and go just a little better than what he does. Ho coming out in fourth is a square-backed, heavy-duty one that just gets too flat in terms of his shoulder and his forerib, just not quite dimensional enough in the center part of his skeleton. Kind of throws his balance off just a little because he's a little emptier looking there in his flank. But man, I still like that one's forearm shape and just density of bone and foot size. There's a lot of neat things in that one that's in four. Hog in five is a very fresh, well-presented one. Just reads a little too short in his hip and just doesn't have that gear from behind that some of these others do. Nice set of Chesters to start off this breed. Folks, put your hands together for them as they exit the ring.
Results of Class 3. In 10th place, Peyton Markham, Wheeler, Texas. 9th place, Abigail Norsworthy, West Fork, Arkansas. In 8th place, J.C. Peterson, Merced, California. 7th place, Peyton Ownby, Whitney, Texas. 6th place went to Sheila Salmons, Weatherford, Texas. 4th, Casey Duncan, Fifth to Camden Hutton, Poolville, Texas. 4th to Casey Duncan, Woodward, Oklahoma. 3rd, Braxton Buckner, Wolford, Texas. 2nd, Nalani Geyer, Flat Rock, Illinois. And 1st in Class 3, Brooke Byers, Sibley, Illinois. Next in the ring is Class number 4. Class 4 of Chesters next in the ring. Champion Drive right behind this. Saunders Construction was locally founded in 1972 and is now one of the largest and most stable construction companies in Colorado. Saunders offers well-paid positions with opportunities for career growth. Visit us at www.saundersincorporated.com for information on career opportunities. Ladies and gentlemen, if you would, put your hands together for the exhibitors being excused at this time. Thank you very much. Thank you.
An awfully good set on top here through the upper end of this particular Chester class, and I think a real good pair that I've got out here to talk about, a pair of dense hogs that are opened up when they come at you. They're still proportional and massive when you get on top of them. They use their hind leg extremely well. There's some finer things between them that sort them for me. Just comfort level in terms of this one that I'm going to use to win out of his front end. The set and slope to his shoulder and his front legs just a nickel better, and you get right on top of him. He's a little trimmer and a little more youthful looking there about his neck. I like that one. Proportions. He's deceivingly dense when you get from a distance, because you get on top of him. There's plenty of hog there that I think that's an awfully neat one to start with. This one in second, I absolutely love this one's heaviness of structure and body shape. Massive when you get on top of him, big pinned and extra square when he goes away. I'd like for him to just get out of his shoulder and his front leg just a little better than what he does. Like to clean up just a little bit of that meat there at the top of his neck. But man, that was a dense square one that's awfully stout when he comes and goes. Young Lady's Hog in 3, I think, is a very athletic one that checks lots of boxes. I think this one gets out and goes good. He's a muscular hog when you get on top of him. Got a tremendous good shape there out of his shoulder and his blade. He's not maybe as fleshy or as fluffy right there in his top line or in the center part of his cage. I'd like to blend his loin just a nickel. But that thing's awfully good in terms of his length of hip, his athleticism. Young Lady does a nice job getting him drove. Same thing goes for the hog coming out here in 4th. Another one that from a distance, man, that thing is awesome looking. Presented to the hill. It's very fresh when you get on top of him and great in his body shape. Just whenever he comes right at you, we got to fix that one's chest and his knee and his front leg. He could use just a shot of stoutness in his foot. Wouldn't hurt my feelings. Young Lady does a nice job getting that one drove. Young Lady in 5 has got a big stout hog, big backed and big ended when you get around behind him. Looks like we're fighting weight. Kind kind of throws his balance off when he needs a little bit more there in the center part of his body and just feel him in his flank. But that thing's fresh backed and still goes good. Young lady does a nice job with this one as well. Tremendously good set of kids. Folks, put your hands together for all of them as they go back to their pens. Good job.
Results of Class 4 in 10th place, Ellie Kowalski, Bend, Oregon. In 9th place, Addison Owensby, Folsom, New Mexico. 8th place went to Journey Mulinoff, Lay, Nebraska. 7th place, Kenandi Walker, Dalhart, Texas. In 6th place, Valerie Harper, Amherst, Texas. 5th went to Sela Salmons, Weatherford, Texas. 4th to Jace Morgan, Manville, Texas. 3rd to Emmy Winnings, Dalhart, Texas. 2nd, Justin Bedecker, Verona, Illinois. And 1st place went to Brinley Harper, Amherst, Texas. Coming in the ring is the Champion Drive. Champion Drive coming in the ring. Weaver Livestock is committed to helping you be the very best you can be. Stop by their trailer on the hill to check out their full line of show supplies backed by industry experts. Weaver is devoted to fueling your enthusiasm for showing livestock with educational clinics and innovative products at the National Western.
Folks, put your hands together for me for all our exhibitors in this Chester show. I think a set of hogs out here that represent a breed that's certainly near and dear to my heart. And there's a lot of interesting things that go together to put these things to make them look like they do out here. And I think it becomes awfully close for reserve because I think that there's a pair of them that are interchangeable and both have some things that I sure like to make different. One of them's maybe just a little denser and stouter. One of them maybe is a little more proportional, but maybe doesn't go as good. Or they both need to go just a little bit better. So I think it's awfully close for me because whenever you get down to it, they still have to have some stoutness and some stuff to them, especially when you get into the center part of them. I think that's what makes it. Makes it fun, but still challenging when you get out here for reserve. But make no mistake, there is a champion out here in terms of just build and athleticism, density, and just putting it all together. And then, like I said, I think for reserve, I think it's awfully close, but there's one that just has a little bit more length of hip and is just stouter. Folks, help me congratulate your two heavyweights. They're going to be your champion in reserve.
Champion Chester goes to Brinley Harper, Amherst, Texas, and your reserve champion, Justin Bedecker, Verona, Illinois. Superior Farms is proud to help sponsor the National Western Stock Show. We invite you to see more about how we help family farms. See the video at superiorfarms.com. Ladies and gentlemen, if you would, put your hands together for those exhibitors being excused. Again, exhibitors, if you want a picture, you got to make sure you let them know before they get you out the gate, because once the pigs go out, they're done.
A lot of differences in how these things are built and how they're brought to me out here, but I think a pair of them that arrive on top as a pair, just a little better balanced in terms of the way that they're built from this side. Length of hip both works in these two's favor. I think the difference between them is when you get off to the side and get right up on top of them. The one that I'm going to use to win's neck ties neater into the top of his shoulder. You get right on top of him. He's more massive right there out of his blade. He maintains a notch more shape and dimension all the way to his pin set. Big tailed and still square chested when he comes at you. That's a nice bear that I'm going to lead off this class with. Young man's bear in second's probably just a little denser looking in terms of his forearm size. Good jawed hog that still is athletic in the way that he moves. Just gets a little rounder up there out of his shoulder. Not quite as stout and as out there in terms of his pin set when you get around behind, but really, really dense and really good in terms of the center part of his cage. A lot of good in that bear that I got in two. A big chested, heavy bone one we got coming out here in three. I like this one, the way this one's neck ties into his shoulder. He gets into third because because he's just got a little hitch there in his left hind leg. You get right on top of him, he's not quite as fresh in terms of his back shape or his loin shape, but I think there's a lot of neat things about this one in 3. Young Man's Hog in 4 is another one that's awfully fresh and big muscled. Doesn't quite match, and it doesn't quite match at the foundation in terms of his foot size or his bone, but I think still athletic and gets out and goes. I like that thing shaped tremendously well. I just like to stouten him up in his bone and his foot. Hog coming out in 5 is a neat looking fresh one that we just need to have stouter, but I think that's another one that needed to be talked about. Unreal good looking in terms of his head neck set and the way it comes out of his shoulder. Good body and fresh, just needs to be stouter all the way through. Awfully nice set of these lightweight Durocs. Folks, put your hands together for all these exhibitors as they go back to their pens.
Results of Class 5. In 10th place, Holden Holwick, McLean, Texas. 9th place, Skylar Gray, Blanchard, Oklahoma. In 8th place, Jacob Mora, La Cruces, New Mexico. 7th place goes to Olivia Merrick, Riverside, Iowa. 6th place, Isaac Bradford, Tuttle, Oklahoma. 5th place, Caden Maxwell, Valparaiso, Indiana. 5th place, Caden Maxwell. I did that one. 4th place, Carson Steinke, Eaton, Colorado. 3rd place, Kylie Murphy, Slaton, Texas. 2nd went to Mason Grady, Grandview, Texas. And 1st place to Justin Bedeker, Verona, Illinois. In the ring is class number 6. If you're looking for that edge in the show ring, consider the all-new Blue Ribbon 2 blocking blade from Andis. Designed for competition, the Andis Blue Ribbon 2 blocking blade delivers a new level of performance with improved hair feed and clean show-stopping lines. Stop by your authorized Andis dealer and see it today. Ladies and gentlemen, if you would, please put your hands together for the exhibitors being excused at this time. Thank you.
Challenging set of these red ones to put together in this class, and lots of parts and pieces that don't quite blend maybe as good as some of them, and it makes it a challenge to get out here and get in a rhythm. With that being said, the one that I'm going to use, I think, does so comfortably for me, and when you get right on top of it, it's when it doesn't really become close, because that thing's shoulder in the center part of his forerib and his body, and his freshness is simply unmatched. He's still long-hitted and still athletic. I'd like to maybe open him up just a nickel when he comes right at you, but in terms of still the stoutness and the width he's got in the center part of his skeleton, his proportionality, and still his athleticism, I thought that was the best option in this particular class. Young lady's bear I got in second is one that's awfully neat looking in terms of his height, the shoulder, and his neck set. He's one that's starting to get just a nickel long in terms of the center part of his body. Him and the one coming out in third, I thought matched in that regard. I do love this one's hip length, and his athleticism from behind is awfully good. Goes right away. He gets a little more bland in terms of his hip and his stifle shape, but I think a nice bear in second. Young man's bear in third is a good one in terms of squareness, one that got just a nickel long there in the center part of his body, wants to reach flatter in the lower part of his cage, but I thought the young man did a nice job. I think he's got a nice bear that we got there in three. Young lady's bearing next is a very shapely one that just runs out of stoutness in terms of bone work, wants to read a little shorter there about his hip, and just doesn't have that extra gear from behind that those three above him had. Ho coming out next here is another one that's awfully heavy duty, didn't quite fit from a balance perspective, got a little long in his body in terms of his height to shoulder, but that one's an awfully dense one that still has a good hind leg. Nice set of red ones to work through. Folks, put your hands together for all these kids as they go back to their pens.
Results of Class 6. In 10th place, Casey Hunt, Wiggins, Colorado. In 9th place, Coy Dino, Darlington, Indiana. In 8th place, Camden Hutton, Poolville, Texas. 7th place went to Josh Harris, Elk City, Oklahoma. 6th, Manuel Saez, Tucson, Arizona. In 5th place, Madison Swearingen, Mobeetie, Texas. In 4th place, Presley Shanahan, Downs, Illinois. 3rd place went to Max Heimer, Taylor, Missouri. 2nd to Dakota Martin, Mason, Texas. And 1st in Class 6, Drake Blades, Crawfordsville, Indiana. In the ring is class number 7. Class 7 be entering the ring. The Colorado Farm Show is proud to support the National Western Stock Show, and they invite you to attend the 56th Colorado Farm Show January 28th, 29th, and 30th at Island Grove Regional Event Center in Greeley, Colorado. If you eat it, drink it, or wear it, agriculture produced it. Colorado Farm Show brochures are available ringside or at the announcer stand. Complete details are online at www.coloradofarmshow.com. Ladies and gentlemen, if you would, put your hands together for the exhibitors being excused at this time. Thank you for that. You know, it doesn't matter if you're excused or the number one, the same number of hours in the barn before you got here. So thank you.
Not gonna lie, this is a harder class to put together because there's so many of them that have got some quality and we're just one click off here or there, and I think when you get into that, you gotta just kind of dig your heels in and still just stay to it. And I think with that being said, I think the two bears that I arrive with on top, I think do so from a comfort level standpoint. I think that they balance and their proportions from the side are better. And then when you get in particular and get right on top of them, I think there's just more horsepower in these two. Between them, I think the young man's bear here from the side balance is better. I think the crest of his neck and the way it blends into his top of his shoulders better. His length of hip and tail set's just a little bit better. I think still big chested and fresh for this weight. that's a real good pig we start with. Young man's bear I got here in seconds, the same way in terms of the center part of his skeleton, good in terms of his front feet stature and still his athleticism, and the way he uses his hind leg is awfully good. I'd like to blend it just a little bit better there from his loin into his tail, but I think the way that one's tail sets into him allows him to reach and go under himself better than what the rest we've got. Young man's hog we got coming out in 3 from a distance, and I think we'll take an awesome picture. Tall shouldered, good neck, long hip, still very, very level and square. He doesn't have that extra gear when you study his right hind leg. He goes right away from you. He's the most bland in his hip shape and his stifle shape, but that thing's good jawed, heavy duty, dense, and good haired. A lot of good in that bear in 3. Young lady's bear in 4. I love this thing's body shape and his freshness. Been presented to the max. We just don't have enough structure. Just too slick in his jaw, too frail in his ankle and his feet. Young lady does a nice job getting him drove. Like I said, fresh backed and awfully good in terms of his cage. I just wish the skeleton was stout enough to match it. That's a nice one we got in 4. Young lady's in 5 is another good jawed, heavy bone one. Not quite as fresh in the center part of his body and the lower part of his cage. He too wants to read a little bit more upright in his shoulder and his front leg. Just doesn't have that extra reach. Nice set of Durocs in his heavyweight class. Folks, put your hands together for all of them as they go back to their pins.
Results of Class 7. In 10th place, Brindley Harper, Amherst, Texas. 9th place, Presley Montgomery, Bayfield, Colorado. In 8th place, Jackson Cobb, Lake City, Arkansas. 7th place, Sage Vogel, Lenox, South Dakota. 6th place, Cyrus Graham, East Leroy, Michigan. 5th place went to Chloe Stevens, Eaton, Colorado. 4th place, Lydia Straka, Yukon, Oklahoma. In 3rd place, Max Heimer, Taylor, Missouri. 2nd went to Wyatt Guestwitt, Fredericksburg, Texas. And 1st was Travis Wallen, Macon, Illinois. Next in is the champion drive of the Durocs. Champion drive of the Durocs, next in.
Got all 3 of these class winners out here. I'm very impressed and still pleased with the quality that we've got out here on top. Had to wade through some little rough waters there for a minute to arrive with these, but I still think a group that comes together in terms of their balance, their proportion, still the freshness that they have, and then their athleticism on top of that. So I think it's an awfully good group out here. I think there's one that kind of puts the look and the freshness and the youthfulness of one together, and still adds the bulk and the center body shape and the dimension. I think one that's awfully hard to put together in terms of just his athleticism and his build, and still got big feet for as big and extended as this one is. Folks, help me congratulate your heavyweight, your champion.
Your champion is Travis Wallen, Macon, Illinois.
Second place comes in, and I talked about that one still being awfully athletic and really good in terms of his body shape and his freshness. Maybe it was just a little off there in terms of his hip out to his loin and his tail. I think if we could blend that just a little bit better, that one certainly gets into the mix too. I do think there's another one that follows the type of that one that won, and I still think is another one that's awfully hard to make in terms of his athleticism and still his look and his general build from the side. Still square and opened up and still youthful. One I think's got a lot of neat things. The young man's lightweight's going to be reserve.
Reserve champion goes to Justin Bedecker, Verona, Illinois. Next in is Class 8, which is the first class of Hampshires. Next in is Class 8, first class of Hampshire. John Deere is the official agriculture and turf equipment provider of the National Western Stock Show. Visit your local John Deere dealer for great deals now, and remember, nothing runs like a deer.